Good evening, everyone, and welcome. As part of Roosevelt's 250th Independence Day celebration, we wanted to take a moment to honor some of the local veterans who have served our country. These men from right here in the Uinta Basin, fathers, grandfathers, neighbors, and friends who answered the call in different eras and came home to build lives in our community. Throughout our program, you'll hear directly from them in their own words. You'll hear stories from Lee Englebrecht, Greg Harmston, Preston Cox, Ghery Smith, and Garry Roher, men who served in conflicts spanning from the Korean War through Vietnam, Iraq, and Afghanistan. These aren't just stories of service. They're stories of why they joined, what they experienced, and the brothers they served with, and the lessons that they carried home. Some are lighthearted, some are heavy, but all of them reflect the quiet strength and resilience that defines so many of the veterans in our community. We hope you'll take a few minutes to listen, reflect, and join us in thanking them and all who have served for their sacrifice. Let's begin. As we celebrate the 250th anniversary of our nation's independence here in the Uinta Basin, we honor the veterans whose service and sacrifice helped secure the freedoms we enjoy today. One of those veterans is Lee Englebrecht. Lee grew up in Kimberly, Idaho, just east of Twin Falls. As a young man with a fast car, he got into some trouble with the law. When the local police chief told him the town wasn't big enough for the both of them, Lee knew his draft notice was coming. The chief's sister ran the draft board. Not wanting to go into the Army, Lee took control of his future and joined the United States Air Force. After basic training at Parks Air Force Base in California and Aircraft Engine Mechanic School, Lee was stationed in Hawaii for 2.5 years at the base right next to Pearl Harbor. There, he worked in engine conditioning on the mighty C-97 aircraft, those massive 4-engine planes with huge 28-cylinder engines. His crew kept those big birds flying, changing spark plugs, checking valves, timing magnetos, and running engines after every inspection. Lee served from 1954 to 1958, a Korean War veteran on the tail end of the conflict. After his service, he built a long career driving a Shell oil gas truck for 20 years before moving into gas measurement work until his retirement. And today, Lee makes his home right here in our Uinta Basin community. Lee's story reflects the quiet strength, hard work, and resilience that defines so many of the veterans among us. From the hangars of Hawaii to the highways of Arizona and now here in our community, he has lived a life of service to his country, his family, and the people around him. Thank you, Lee, for your service. We're very proud to honor you as a part of our 20th celebration.
My name's Lee Englebrecht. I grew up in Kimberly, Idaho. I stayed there till I joined the military. Went to basic in Parks Air Force Base in California. And I went to Chanute, Illinois for aircraft engine mechanic school. And I went to Hawaii and I was in what they called engine conditioning. We changed spark plugs, checked the valves, checked the timing on the mag. And then we run up the aircraft after they come out of periodic inspection, which they did every 150 hours on them. C-97s had 4 28-cylinder engines on them. They're big dudes. And I was in Hawaii for about 2.5 years, right next to Pearl Harbor. Yeah, that was pretty good duty. I had a good job. That engine conditioning was a good job because we had 3 periodic docks in these hangars, and so we worked on 3 different airplanes at a time. And like I say, we changed the spark plugs, checked the valve clearance, and Climbed the Magnetos, Kimberly, Idaho. Well, I had a fast car and I got in trouble, and the police chief there, his sister run the draft board. And when you went to court and he said, this town ain't big enough for the two of us, you knew your draft notice was in the mail. And I didn't want to go to the Army, so I joined the Air Force. Yeah, my draft notice came the next week after I left. My brother was in the Army, and I knew I didn't want to go in the Army, and I'm not too fond of a ship, so I joined the Air Force. When I first got there, they put me in what they called airframe general. And my first day, we was cleaning out the aircraft around the seats and stuff. Then the second day, they pulled me into engine conditioning, and that's where I stayed till they evacuated us. I'm what they call a Korean veteran, but I was on the tail end of that. So I was in from 1954 to 1958. And I heard Shell Oil was hiring truck drivers. So I went to work for Shell Oil, drove a truck for 20 years, a gas truck. And I was what we did was, I was in the gas measurement. I took care of the gas meters from the wells. Gas comes off of each well. There's oil and water and gas. They call it methane. So I was working on them till I retired. I retired in '01. That's when El Paso took over Coastal. I said, I'm out of here. I'm going to take it easy. First place, get your education. That's very important. Get your education and try to be an upstanding citizen. Don't get into drugs or become a hoodlum or whatever, you know. That's what I tell my grandkid. Happy 4th of July. Don't get in no trouble. Have a lot of fun. Take it easy with the fireworks. They can do a lot of damage. I used to belong to the Elks, and every 4th of July, they'd have a big fireworks display. And they had all the fireworks in a horse trailer. Anyway, one of those rockets, it came up about 2 foot and then went right straight into that trailer where all the fireworks was. Boy, we evacuated that in a hurry. No, nobody got hurt. Good thing was somebody was watching. Yeah, or we'd have been toast, probably. That's about it.
As we celebrate the 250th anniversary of our nation's independence here in the Uinta Basin, we honor the veterans who answered the call and helped preserve the freedoms we hold dear. One of those veterans is Greg Harmston, a son of Roosevelt and a member of one of the founding families of this community. Greg grew up right here in Roosevelt, with a little time spent in New Mexico and Salt Lake for his dad's work. He attended Wasatch Academy and finished his schooling at Granger High. At just 17 years old, while working construction on what was then the tallest building in Utah, Greg had a disagreement with his father, walked around the corner, and joined the Navy, beating the draft that was looming during the Vietnam War. He had planned on the Seabees, but the Navy had other ideas and sent him straight to the fleet. After a cold boot camp at Great Lakes, Greg was assigned to a top destroyer on the East Coast, a ship with the latest sonar and early drone helicopters that would launch torpedoes and return to the deck. He stood plane guard for aircraft carriers, picked up downed pilots in the ocean, and served in the Mediterranean, where his ship chased a Russian submarine for 17 hours and forced it to the surface near Gibraltar under direct orders from the president. Later, his ship went through the Panama Canal and onto the gun line off of Vietnam during the Tet Offensive. For days, they fired continuously in support of Marines and Army units, sometimes so heavily they had to throw hot shell casings overboard by hand in the middle of the night. After 3 years of service, Greg came home to Roosevelt. Like many young men of that era, he had to leave the basin for work, heading to California with his dad before eventually returning, meeting his wife Melody, and raising a family here. He's been running a lumber yard ever since and remains deeply involved with the American Legion. helping organize events and tributes for this very 250th celebration. Greg Harmston's story is one of quick decisions, steady duty, and lifelong commitment to the place he calls home. From the decks of a destroyer to the lumber yard in Roosevelt, he has lived a life of service. To his country and to this community, thank you, Greg, for your service. We're proud to honor you as part of our 250th celebration.
I'm Greg Harmston, born in Roosevelt, Utah on a cold winter day. We lived in other places, New Mexico and Salt Lake, and most of the time we growed up right here in Roosevelt. At that period of time, the draft was behind me. They were going to be able to catch up with old Greg fairly shortly because I was just working construction, having fun. I joined the Navy so I could ride. And actually, I had some uncles in the Navy. Me and my dad had a couple words, so I walked over there and enlisted. That was all there was to it. Well, the Vietnam War was going on at that time. I actually joined up to be in the Seabees, the construction battalion, signed up for it. I had 4 months of playtime before I went in. After we got in there and got through boot camp, they said, no, the billet is full. We're going to send you to the fleet. I didn't go to the construction battalion. I went to the fleet. If I'd have known that I'd get that seasick, I probably would have went walking in the Army. When I signed up over there in Camp Williams in Salt Lake, it was March 8th. The weather kind of broke here in Roosevelt. When I went to Camp Williams, my friends had my car, and he says, well, you want your coat? And I says, no, I'm going to San Diego. I won't need a coat. The weather in Utah had finally warmed up. So they put me on an airplane and sent me to the Great Lakes. And with no coat, it was mighty cold. The snowdrifts was up to the roof eaves, and the wind was coming off the lakes pretty good. And I didn't have a coat for 2 or 3 days before they issued us a pea coat. I don't go anywhere now without a coat. They sent me to Norfolk, Virginia, right after boot camp, put me on a destroyer. This destroyer was the top destroyer of the East Coast. It was really top honors of the fleet. So we pulled awful good duty. We had the latest in sonars, the latest in technology. But nowadays they have drones that fly out. We had 2 drones on our ship in 1965, 66 that would fly out and drop torpedoes on submarines. Top secret stuff. We went to Boston and we actually trained to pick up a space capsule. We didn't stay in port. We pretty well kept on the move. North Atlantic, after Caribbean, Mediterranean, and around in the Atlantic, anytime an aircraft carrier goes anywhere, even today, there's destroyers to protect that aircraft carrier. There's an inner ring and outer ring, and usually a couple submarines. And that's even today. In the Mediterranean, we would follow an aircraft carrier. We had a Russian submarine took and put a run on our aircraft carrier. We were on the inner ring, and there was the outer ring of destroyers, and he had made it through them, and we caught him. And radioed over that aircraft carrier and said, hey, buddy, you got somebody on your tail. Get the heck out of here. That aircraft carrier blowed black smoke, and he was out of, and this old boy was moving. Grabbed another destroyer to help us. We had direct orders from the President of the United States to go ahead and put it on top. And we did. We run him for 17 hours, brought him up. It was about 7 o'clock at night, getting pretty dark. Aircraft carrier sent over a couple airplanes with big searchlights and cameras. And when we got done taking pictures. We were flashed the submarine a light and said, "Have a nice trip home, boys. We're leaving." And we left. Well, then we went through the Panama Canal over to the Pacific. We hit what they call the Tet Offensive. We'd go on the gun line for 6 weeks, and we'd plane guard or the aircraft carrier for 6 weeks. So we'd protect the aircraft carrier, or if they had a down pilot, we'd have to pick up pilots out of the ocean. We'd go to the gun line and fire for the Army and the Marines. The Marines was pushed to the coast. So we went in there and started firing. We had 6 5-inch cannons on our guns. You could fire as fast as you could put the projectile into the gun. That's how fast it would fire. We fired all night. The next morning, we could see nothing but burned territory from the beach out, because we throwed everything we had. During the middle of the night, we even had to get out on the deck and take the empty shells and throw them over the side because the gun was rubbing them. We had them stacked up on the deck, 3 feet deep. Now that's throwing a lot of powder. This 250th anniversary is something that we've been working here at the Legion, and myself, of course. We've put up the new sign and this cannon we've got that we'll fire, which we're going to fire at the rodeo parade. This is all due to the 250th anniversary. We're gearing up to show our patriotism for this 250th anniversary. Happy Independence Day. Happy 4th of July.
As we celebrate the 250th anniversary of our nation's independence here in the Uinta Basin, we honor the veterans who answered the call when their country needed them most. One of those veterans is Preston Cox. Preston was born and raised right here in the Uinta Basin. Like most kids in Neola and Roosevelt, he spent his days riding bikes from sunup to sundown, wrestling on trampolines, and staying outside until the streetlights came on. From the time he was 5 or 6 years old, he knew exactly what he wanted to do with his life: join the Army. Inspired by the movies of his generation, he signed up on the delayed entry program his senior year, graduated high school, and shipped out to Fort Benning just 2 weeks later in June of 2000. After basic training in infantry school, Preston earned his jump wings and was assigned to the legendary 101st Airborne Division at Fort Campbell, the Rockassons. He served as a 240 gunner in Alpha Company, 3rd Battalion, 187th Infantry. On September 11, 2001, he watched the second plane hit the tower with his unit, and they knew they were going to war. He deployed to Afghanistan in early 2002, then straight to Iraq in 2003. He turned 20 in Afghanistan and 21 in Iraq. As a 240 gunner, he carried nearly 190 pounds of gear, knowing that if his gun went down, his platoon lost 3/4 of its firepower. He got stop-lossed and didn't come home until November 2003. When Preston returned to the basin, he went to work in the oil field, first swabbing, then roughnecking for nearly 10 years until his body finally gave out. Today he's medically retired and living in Neola, a place he calls God's country. Cox's story is one of knowing from childhood exactly where he belonged, in uniform, and then answering that call when his country needed him most. From the heavy load of a 240 gunner in Afghanistan and Iraq to building a life back in the basin, he has lived with quiet strength and deep gratitude for home. Thank you, Preston, for your service. We are proud to honor you as part of our 20th celebration.
Preston Cox, born and raised here in the basin, and grew up, and we would ride our bikes everywhere we went, jumped on trampolines, wrestled on them like WWF, and yeah, we pretty much, from the time sun come down, we was outside playing and riding around. I always wanted to join the military since I was a little kid. 5, 6 years old. That was my whole goal. And probably Rambo, really. I grew up during that generation of all those movies and stuff, but I've always wanted to do it since I was just little. I wore the camouflage, and yeah. I joined in 1999. I went to basic June 12, 2000, right after we graduated, 2 weeks after. I went to Fort Benning, Georgia, and that was a culture shock. It took me about a month before I could figure out what anybody was saying down there. Hot and humid during the summer, and it was quite the experience. I thought about the Navy because my grandpa was in the Navy. He's a frogman in Korea. And I was like, no, I ain't doing that. If I'm going to die, it's going to be on solid ground. Yeah. I messed up my feet, and so I went to airborne school on the side of my feet because I didn't want to get dropped to go to the medical, because then I wouldn't be able to go back to airborne school. I just sucked through it. My first time was Fort Campbell, Kentucky, 101st Airborne. I was in 3rd Brigade, 3rd Battalion, 187th Infantry Regiment, Roxons, Alpha Company, 2nd Platoon. I was a 240 gunner pretty much the entire time I was in. I come from a pretty rich legacy. The most memorable thing that sticks out to me was September 11th. I was in, and we just got done doing PT, and we seen a plane hit the tower, one of the towers at the time, so we was all gathered around. We had a big screen TV down at the day room, and we all gathered around and watched the second one hit, and we knew it was about ready to go. So we laid out all our gear for about 2 weeks straight, getting it inspected, make sure we had everything, and they changed the packing list, get everything. But we was out drawing ammo, drawing weapons, and just waiting for the word to go. And about, I think about December 1st and 2nd bat, deployed over to Afghanistan. And then we deployed in, I think, the end of January 2002. But yeah, that changed my life. We spent about 6 months in Afghanistan, from about February to I think about August 2000. There was nothing there, just tents and bug blower in the tent to try to keep it cool, but it was so hot there. And then we redeployed back to Fort Campbell and got ready for Iraq. We all knew we was in Afghanistan when we was going to Iraq, so that's why they cut our deployment kind of short there and sent us back. So deployed to Iraq in February 2003. And then I got stop loss. I was supposed to get out in July 2003, or June of 2003. And the stop loss is where you can't get out. And so I ended up getting out in about November of 2003. I think I came home in September when they finally lifted the stop loss, but it takes a while to get processed and all that. Yep. I turned 20 in Afghanistan and 21 in Iraq. Some of my toughest challenges was being away from home, and the world goes on over here, but for all people who are deployed and stuff, you gotta block out everything that's going on at home and focus on what your mission and the dude to your left and your right, really. And so we all had each other. We're brothers from another, really. Yeah, we stay in touch to this day and are closer than family to me, really. We bled together, we sweated together, cried together, everything we did together. So it forms a tight bond. But I'm about the furthest one out. You couldn't find one of us without the other. That's part of why I joined the Legion, to give back to my community and be a better example than I was when I got out. The military is pretty much 90% mental and 10% physical. You gotta conquer your brain and get over things and push your body even a little further than what it. I was a 240 gunner, and that's 3/4 of our platoon's firepower. If I go down, that gun goes down, my platoon loses that firepower, and then the riflemen can't maneuver. My main job was just to suppress, to keep their heads down so the line guys can maneuver either on the flanks or get up and bound up to the objective, where they're taking fire from or whatever. So I always had that in my mind. If I lose this gun, or if this gun goes down, or if I can't make it to the fight, then these guys get wiped out. So I always push myself to make sure that gun stayed up. My message to the youth would be to love your country and love where you come from. And if you want to join the military, then understand you're sworn an oath to the Constitution, and that oath doesn't expire. So always uphold it, because there's nowhere else like it. Wish the Uinta Basin a happy 250th. God bless the basin, and God bless America.
As we celebrate the 250th anniversary of our nation's independence here in the Uinta Basin, we honor the veterans who served with quiet strength and carried that strength into the lives they built afterward. One of those veterans is Ghery Smith. Gary grew up on a ranch west of Glendive, Montana. After working the land, he knew he didn't want to spend his life farming, so when the time came, he chose the Marine Corps. He wanted to serve with an all-volunteer unit, men who had chosen to be there. And he decided if he was going to do it, he was going to do her all out. Boot camp in San Diego was a culture shock for a young man from a small Montana town. After jungle training, he landed in Da Nang and was in the bush within 36 hours as an 03 grunt. The conditions were brutal, often less than the 2 hours of sleep and one meal the rules required. But what stayed with him most were the men he served with. He bonded with them tighter than his own family, and losing them was the hardest part of it all. After his service, Gary came to the Uinta Basin in 1971 and went to work in the oil field. Compared to what he had been through, the oil field felt like a piece of cake. He raised a family here, ended up with 4 kids he loves dearly, and when retirement came, he chose to stay. This is home now, not Montana. Ghery Smith's story is one of choosing the hard path, surviving it, and then quietly building a good life in a place he now calls home. We are proud to honor him as part of our 250th celebration. Thank you for your service, Gary.
I was born in Glendive, Montana, and raised on a ranch west of Glendive. And I found out after working on the farm, I didn't want to do that for the rest of my life. When the draft come up and whatever, that's when I went from there to in the service. I joined, I just wanted to be with an all-volunteer group. And the Marine Corps wasn't taking any draftees, they wasn't. And I wanted to be with guys that wanted to be there. And I figured, in the back of my mind, I thought, well, if I'm gonna do this, I might as well do her all out. I'll do the very best I can. So I decided that's what I was going to do, and so I went in, and everybody else, of course, was volunteer there, and they all basically had the same attitude. All in all, for everything that we all went through, you know, I'd do it again. I don't know why, but I'd do it again. I was going on 19. They call it boot camp, yeah. I fell in, that was a different world. I'll guarantee you that was. I thought them instructors and whatever, they'd got them out of a loony bin. Well, they was, wow. Yeah. And back then, they could slap you around and knock you around and do this and that. Yeah, it was a little bit of a culture shock. I was the first time in the real world. I was raised in a town just out of Terry, 1,100 people. I was an 03. My MOS was an 03, which is a ground pounder. That's what we were. And yeah, I went after boot camp. I'd done another month of jungle training. And then I flew overseas, landed in Da Nang, and within about 36 hours, I was in the bush. And it was a rough start. I still remember him clearly. I'm a twin. I got a twin brother. And I probably know those guys better than I do my own brothers and sisters. You absolutely depended on each other. It was close. You bonded. And that was the hard part as far as losing somebody. It was because you lived with them day in and day out. The oil field was a piece of cake. There was no situation that bad when I was in the service. So everything else, it wasn't made where some people, it would get to them. Stuff didn't bother me at all. Getting out of that, going in the oil field was a piece of cake.
Makes sense.
I learned a lot. How to treat people, how to take care of people, or try to. I done, just like when I had my crew and this and that, I tried my level best to take care of them, this and that. My whole attitude on a lot of stuff totally changed when I got up. Shell started this oil field down here. He worked in a big shell field up there out of Glendive. I worked for Western Oil Well Service. Come down here, and a lot of the company hands up there for Shell moved down here when this started, so they said, hey. So we come down here with the rig, and we went back working for the same old boys we was working for up there in Glendive. I married a gal up there in Montana, and she had a little one already. Come down here, and we had another one, and then we parted ways, and I got married again, and she had two, so I ended up with four. Love all four of them to death. I always tell people I'm an immigrant still, but I've met a lot of good people here. He said, "You're gonna head back up to Montana?" I said, "No, this is my home. This is my home, and you can keep Montana. I got a lot of friends here, and this is where I'm staying."
As we celebrate the 250th anniversary of our nation's independence here in the Uinta Basin, we honor the veterans whose courage and resilience helped secure the freedoms we enjoy today. One of those veterans is Garry Roher. Garry grew up in Douglas, Wyoming, in a large family that didn't have much. As a teenager, he was a talented wrestler, but after a surprise test made him ineligible for the state tournament, he quit school and headed to Kentucky. He lived rough for 3 months before hitchhiking and riding trains back home. So changed that his own parents didn't recognize him at first. He later worked seismic crews traveling the oil fields until he landed in Utah and met his wife Terry. In 1969, he was drafted and served aboard the aircraft carrier USS Coral Sea. While deployed to Vietnam, Garry worked as a helmsman and radioman, standing long watches and helping with dangerous night replenishments at sea. Near the end of his tour, while refueling a destroyer in rough seas, a line wrapped around his arm and threw him into the air. The chief boatswain's mate cut the line just in time, but Garry's arm was shattered in 5 places. He spent weeks on the floor of an army hospital in Da Nang with no pain medication, then underwent surgery in Japan before coming home through Travis Air Force Base, where Vietnam veterans were marched past angry protesters. He spent a full year recovering at Fitzsimmons Army Hospital in Denver. His daughter Tammy was already 6 months old before he could even hold her. After discharge with a 20% disability, Gary struggled to find work that his injured arm could handle. He roughnecked on drilling rigs in Wyoming and eventually made his way to the Uinta Basin. He started running fishing tools in 1979, built his own business in 2004, and today his sons work right alongside him. Gary has poured his life into this community. Through the American Legion, he helped place flags on every veteran's grave in Roosevelt, over 500 of them. And he has been part of the color guard and 21-gun salutes on Memorial Day for years. He also played a key role in creating the Silhouette Memorial that now stands on the hill facing the cemetery, honoring those buried there. Garry Roher's story is one of hard beginnings, sacrifice, quiet endurance, and a deep commitment to remembering those who never made it home. We are proud to honor him as part of our 250th celebration. Thank you for your service, Gary.
My name's Garry Roher. I grew up in Douglas, Wyoming. As a kid, we did a lot. We didn't have a lot. When I was in high school, I used to wrestle a lot, and I was a pretty good wrestler. Went to Kentucky with a friend of mine, and we lived like hillbillies. I was there for 3 months, like to starve to death, and called my mom, and they sent me a ticket to come home. And then it was night, and this older lady sat beside me. And when she got up, she had left a handkerchief wrapped in my lap, money in it. I seen the money, and I went straight to the dining car, and I ate. But when I got into Denver, parents walked right by me. They did not even recognize that it was me. Went all on. And then came to Utah. Then that's where I met my wife, Terry. And then I got drafted in 1969. I went to boot camp, and I came home out of boot camp, and me and Terry got married. From there, I was on the Coral Sea in the CVA-43 aircraft carrier. And off to Vietnam I went in September. We was refueling the destroyer, and I was running the Gypsy Head, and the seas were really rough. One of the motors from the destroyer went out, and so we started separating. And then it come back together, and it threw all my wraps off my Gypsy Head. And it wrapped my leg, and it wrapped my arm. And I got my leg out, but I didn't get my arm. It broke my arm in 5 places and rotated around my wrist, my arm, my elbow, and up here. And so from there, they flew me to Da Nang, the ship, and loaded me on the back of a Jeep and took me to an Army hospital there, where they put me on the floor. I laid on the floor for 2 weeks. They'd bring guys in that really shot up. Bad guys, hurt bad, died. And they wouldn't give you no pain medication. We'd just lay there. 2 weeks I was there on the floor in the hospital in Da Nang. And then they transferred me to an Air Force hospital in Da Nang, and did start giving me pain medication. Terry had no idea that I was hurt. For 3 months, he had no idea I was hurt. Until I got operated on and kind of got my wits about me, that I was able to make a call to let her know. She had no idea. She just knew the letters had all stopped. I've got steel plates in my left arm. It's an inch shorter. I can't rotate it. I can't push, because it pushes the plates in the mail to pull. So from there, they flew us to Travis Air Force Base. There was a lot of them in gurneys, wheelchairs. I was able to walk. They paraded us through a 6-foot wide area, protesters on one side, and us in the middle, all everything under the sun. And that's what I was saying. The Vietnam vets was treated like crap. Nowadays, they come back for whatever. They land them, they take them into a hangar, and that, they don't have no. They didn't do that one. Treated them like total. They really did. In Travis, they flew me to Denver, Colorado, and I was in Fitzsimmons in the hospital for a year there. They said I'd never move my arm, but I do. I move it around. Tammy, my daughter, she was 6 months old before I could see her. They had come to Denver, and the wife and my daughter had joined them there. It teaches them discipline. It teaches them respect. It shows patriotism. People died, men and women both, for this, for the freedom that you had. I think a lot of kids nowadays don't understand that. It's a passion for me. Be in the American Legion, to go as a color guard and perform 21 gun salutes for those who've died. And we do that whether it's 40 below, it's 110 degrees, whether it's snowing, it's raining, it doesn't matter, we do it. We go to 6 different cemeteries, 21, and play taps on the wall. It's a great. What freedom means to me, you look around the country right now and all the protesting that's going on, and that they don't understand exactly what freedom is. You can do and become anything that you want to become. I never dreamed in a million years that I would have my own business. I would have my boys working for me. But being an American, you're able to do that. So it truly touches my heart. And to live in America and to have what we have, I definitely want to thank everybody that has helped with the memorial, helped us celebrate the 4th of July and the 250th anniversary. I want to thank them and thank God for letting me be part of this and to live in the country. Thank you.